Hi, welcome back. I've got the dryer taken apart, and let's review a couple things that we're going to be checking down here first. So first of all, we verified that maybe the vent was okay. The problem was we weren't getting any heat at all. And the no heat situation, first of all, the thing we should have verified that we did earlier was check the voltage coming to the customer's dryer. We wanted to make sure that we had either the 208 or the 240. We want to make sure that either both of the side lines were blown, which turning on the dryer and seeing the display come on and the motor verified for us. But basically we wanted to really check to see if we're losing one side of the line or whether or not the electricity wired to the dryer was actually wired correctly. So we verified that. We verified the vent is okay. We actually checked the seals on here and the blower housing, and everything was okay on that. So now we want to check a few electrical things. So a couple things on the electric dryer that can cause it not to heat is, on the dryer we have a dryer motor, we have a centrifugal switch. The purpose of the centrifugal switch is twofold. One of them is to take the start winding out shortly after the motor has reached the proper RPMs, or just shortly before it has reached the proper RPMs. We don't need it at that point, so the centrifugal switch will drop out the start winding. But the second thing that it does is it completes the heat circuit. So basically, when the start winding had dropped out and the switch for the heat circuit closes, basically what we have done is we've completed the L2 circuit to our heating elements. Our main board with those two relays up on the top are supplying the L1 circuit, but we needed a complete circuit, so we needed to do the other side of that line, and that's what the centrifugal switch in the motor had accomplished. So what we're going to be doing is, like I said, refer to the wiring schematic that came with the dryer to make sure that you're on the right pins. But we're going to do a quick visual check with our meter to make sure that that circuit is working okay. These two end wires, these two large wires here, is where we're going to be checking. It actually would be probably better if we can pull off this connection. We'll get a better reading. But because it's kind of hard for me to move around and do two things at once, I'm going to leave them on there because it's easier to hold these leads in there. So let's go ahead and turn on our meter. We'll set it for ohms, and I'm going to put one on the bottom connector, and then we'll put one on the top connector. Now what I'm doing is physically taking this collar right over here, and I'm going to be pushing it towards me here. So as I do that, I'm actually engaging those connections for your centrifugal switch, and we should get a closed circuit. And now when I open this up, release it, I get an overload, and when I go ahead and close it, I've got a closed circuit again. So that verified to me that that centrifugal switch was working okay in the motor. If it had failed, the only thing you can do at this point is go ahead and replace the motor. That's all done internally here. You can also check for maybe you got a broken wire at one of these connections. Pretty high amperage coming over here, so sometimes maybe one of these wires might have burnt off. In that case, you would have lost your L2 circuit. Now the other thing we want to check on here for a no heat situation is, of course, we have the heating element. This is sold as one assembly, and you're going to get the two thermostats. You'll get the high limit thermostat, and you'll also get the safety thermostat. So when we're checking the heating element, we're going to get similar results like we did before when we checked it from the top. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and remove one of these terminals here. We'll remove the common one. Sometimes if you leave everything connected, sometimes you get some feedback from something. So the proper way is actually disconnect one or both sides of that. So let's go ahead and check these. Go common to blue. Got about 20 ohms. Let's check the other heating element, common to the yellow wire. You've got similar to the same. And then when you go across both of those, you've got a combination of both of them, are about 40 ohms. Also, you want to make sure that this heating element wasn't grounded. So let's go ahead and take each terminal. Just make sure we don't get a resistance reading when we actually touch the case of this heating element. Okay? All right, so we look pretty good there. So let's make sure we get this wire back on. And then we're going to check our two little thermostats here. This one is your high limit thermostat. Now, before, when we had checked that circuit for our safety, we did on the main board use, on this particular dryer, it was the connector YL or yellow 3. We used pin 3. and then we reference it to each one of the heaters. That way we're able to check this circuit. Basically what this white wire is off our high limit thermostat is actually a feedback signal to let it know that this thermostat here has opened. Yeah, they use it as part of flow sense. So let's go ahead and we'll check the high limit thermostat. Now remember, both of these thermostats at room temperature should always be closed. Pretty much on any one of these safeties, whether you're talking about the safety or the high limit, they really should never open unless there's a particular problem with airflow. And like we said earlier, airflow could be caused because you typically have a bad vent, it's clogged up somewhere. Could be a situation where there's a lot of lint that's blocking in your return duct here. You might have had maybe a fabric softener sheet that got wrapped around here, or a towel or something, kind of affecting the way this works. Could have a problem with the blower wheel. Maybe it's rounded out on there and the motor is turning, but the blower wheel is just kind of flipping around. Or you can have a problem with maybe your felt seals around the drum. A good felt seal and a good blower system is going to create a partial vacuum inside this drum. With a good venting system, that partial vacuum will help evaporate some of the moisture in the clothes, helps it dry a little faster. When you've got a situation where you've got a bad vent, what we're going to do is create a lot of static pressure. It will actually be pressurizing this drum here. And a good clue over time is you get that carpet of lint down on the bottom, because basically we're bypassing the lint filter and we're blowing right past the seals, and we're collecting a lot of dangerous accumulation of lint down on the bottom that can cause for a fire later. All right, so I've got my lead off on my high limit thermostat, and this one should be closed when I go across those two. So look for a closed circuit. If it's opened, more than likely this one had a takeover. This is your safety, and if that one had opened, it's usually a one-shot deal. You have to replace the thermostat. I would replace both of them. Like I said earlier, it's an LG policy, but this is kind of the last line of defense. So let's go check this one. This one also at room temperature should also be closed at this point. Okay, and we look good on both of those. Also check your wiring while you're down here. A lot of times you might see one of these wires has burned off. You get a loose connection here. These terminals will burn off or break. Same thing on these thermostats. You could have a bad connection somewhere where it's burnt off. So in review here, we showed you a few things that can cause it not to heat. Showed you a couple of simple things to go through before we went ahead with the more extensive thing of taking it apart. We showed you how you can do some of these checks up at your main board, and we also showed you how you can do some of these things down at the bottom. So I hope you found this information useful, and I hope you'll be able to use this in your daily occurrences when you have problems with electric dryers not heating. So let us know how we're doing. If there's anything we could do to make your jobs a little bit easier, that's what we're here for. So have a great day and be safe out there.